yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believed in yesterday. Suddenly.
Hello, my fellow subscribers and my fellow YouTube pals. Welcome to my movie review of Yesterday. Yesterday, directed by Danny Boyle. And basically, Yesterday tells the story of this struggling musician known as Jack. His full name being Jack Malik, and he wants to become a successful music artist, and his best friend and his lover Ellie is trying to help him do that. And he he goes through a terrible accident, and then that knocks him down a little bit, and then he decides to get into his music, and then he starts playing the Beatles music. And nobody else can seem to remember the music for some strange reason. And then he achieves worldwide fame out of it because everybody thinks that he wrote the songs. However, his lying is short-lived, and he does have to realise that he can't live a lie any longer than he should. And he really should be honest and tell the truth, and also be honest with himself about the way he feels about Ellie, because he is in love with her. And yeah, the whole thing is kind of a homage to the Beatles, who are the band, very famous music band. Hey Jude, Yesterday is one of their classic songs. So yeah, Yesterday, this is an interesting movie. Danny Boyle directed this movie. Danny Boyle actually was originally tipped to direct Bond 25. However, due to creative differences, he left the project. But yeah, before that, he was working on this. I think this movie is decent. I think it's fun. I think it suffered from coming out at the wrong time, and I just don't think that it's as polished as it thinks it is. It's not as good as movies like Bohemian Rhapsody or Rocket Man. It's coming off the heels of Rocket Man. This movie made a terrible mistake in being released at the time that it did. I think you should have delayed the release of this movie to probably the autumn. I think that would have been better. As a summer movie, it doesn't work, because Rocket Man only came out a month ago. That movie's doing very well. It's very successful, telling the story about Elton John, and obviously Bohemian Rhapsody, which came out last year, tell the story of Queen, which I think was a very good film. The story itself is kind of strange. Well, not strange as such in the sense that, why has everyone forgotten the Beatles? I don't get that. I know the whole message of the movie. I know why they did that for the whole message of the movie, but at first I was like, what? Like, why? The Beatles are huge. How can you forget about them? This movie's not like... It's not like a prelude to the Beatles. It's not like how the Beatles became the Beatles. The Beatles aren't really in it. there's a couple of surprise cameos, but... like I said, the movie is a homage to the Beatles. It's set in the modern day. Ed Sheeran appears in this movie as himself. James Cordon appears in this movie as himself. So yeah, I like the way they incorporated the music and the way they used that to, kind of tell the story. Obviously, it was nice, and it was nice to hear some of those classic, music tracks. But for me, it's just like any other story. It's just pretty generic. It's like, a guy rises to fame on a big white lie, and then he eventually comes clean and gives it all up for his girlfriend and for himself, because he can't live a lie anymore. He starts to feel like everything's overwhelming, and he's the fame and the fortune, it starts to get to him, really. and what he wanted was right in front of him. And this is going to sound strange, but another movie did this story, and it was called Shark Tale. It's a DreamWorks animated movie. I've reviewed it on my channel. I know this is a bizarre comparison, but if you think about it, these two films have exactly the same story. The main protagonist rises to fame through telling a lie, and then in the end comes clean after realizing what's truly important in life. And this movie, does have a nice message in the sense that there's more to life than fame and fortune. There's also exploiting others' work. Plagiarism is never a good thing, and neither is exploitation. But for me, the movie doesn't have a very interesting story, and that's kind of what lets it down. It's just a story we've seen many times before, and in that sense, it's predictable. You know where it's going to go. You know straight away that Jack is going to eventually come clean. He's going to realize what he's done, and he's going to try and find the error of his ways. Also, the accident really didn't advance the plot too much. It did a little bit, in the sense of it emotionally affected Jack because he lost 2 of his teeth, and he kind of he was going to give up his music, although he was going to do that before the accident. The accident was just another event that added to his struggle. But then his best friend Ellie, who then later become his girlfriend, she definitely brings out the best in him. And I think what keeps this film going is the romance, the relationship between Jack and Ellie is very well done. Hamish Patel plays Jack, and Hamish Patel is a interesting actor. He's not an actor that's done much film work, at least not that I can remember. He was in EastEnders, the British soap opera, which is about people and their lives. He was in that when he was younger, about 10 years ago. So for those of you who are outside of the UK, you're not going to have a clue what I'm talking about, but don't worry. Look it up. It's called EastEnders. It's set in London, and he was in it. He played Tamwa Masood. Yeah. Hamish Patel, he's got this kind of like nerdy quality, and some of his he's quite sarcastic in some of his humour, but I think he plays this part pretty well. He's pretty good, I like his performance. I wouldn't say it's groundbreaking, but it's not like Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody. It's not Oscar worthy, but it's good enough so that you understand the story, and you can see him struggling to kind of express how he feels about Ellie. I think Lily James is terrific in this movie. She's the best performance of the movie by far. She's a very strong actress. She was last year. She was in Mamma Mia. Here We Go Again, the second film, which I did review as well. She plays a young version of Meryl Streep, so she put on an American accent for her role in that film. Although this film she puts on a normal British voice. Her British accent. And I love the fact that her character's such a free spirit. Her character's a teacher, and yet she's this really fun, kind of, lovely, charming girl who is so clearly in love with this man. Yeah, so that definitely transcended on the screen. So that was the most interesting part of the story, was their romance. And I like their scenes together. And there's a very there's a few emotional scenes as well. Particularly, there's one scene in a hotel when it is implied that they are about to how can I put it, get it on. But she resists because she just doesn't want to be used, or doesn't want to be taken advantage of. She wants, she doesn't believe that he, loves her. Which is very sad, because he's having to choose fame over her, because he's having to go to America and do all of this publicity and do all of this touring, and he's kind of, his life has gone down a different path, so he's had to sort of sacrifice his relationship with her, and then she gets with another guy who actually they met in the beginning of the movie, who has a recording studio. But she doesn't really love that guy. She just kind of needed someone. So I like the ups and downs of their romance. That was very well done. Um, there's a few supporting players. I guess the next person to mention is Joel Frye as Rocky, who's basically this. He's this kind of, he's a cool guy. He's kind of a guy that everybody wants to be. He likes to drink. He likes to smoke. He likes to have fun. He likes to have a fun time. And he's very funny. There's some funny moments in this film. The humor's pretty good. And Rocky's probably the funniest character in it. That's kind of, I mean, and then there's obviously his parents. Jack's parents appear in the movie briefly. His parents are very rude people. I say that. Karl Theobold makes a cameo as Terry. Those of you who watched Primeval will remember that Karl Theobold plays Oliver Leake in Series 2 of Primeval. So a bit of a fun fact for you there. I mean, Terry, it's only a cameo role, really. He's a prolonged cameo. But, you know, his presence in the movie is nice. I think Danny Boyle directs the movie quite well. I think that's the scenes kind of flow quite naturally. There are times when the pacing sort of drags a bit. It kind of, like, after, I mean, once you kind of know where the story's going, it kind of just sags on, because like, all the stuff in America, in the recording studios, we've seen it all before. We don't need to have this prolonged thing. I think this movie would have actually worked at 90 minutes. It would have been tight, but I think it would have been consistent enough for you to have a more natural flow. For me, there are just this movie is about 20 minutes too long. There are 20 minutes that were a little bit rough around the edges, like scattered across the movie. There's the beginning, the first act I think is quite long, like when he's before the accident, and then he gets involved with his music, and then he's we see him working in a shop. There's not really much going on in terms of plot, so yeah, I think they could have tightened up the pacing a bit. Also, there are some weird camera angles. Danny Boyle likes his Dutch angles, but there's not much to really say. I mean, the music is great. The story is really nothing special. Really nothing special. I liked the bittersweet emotion, and all the performances were very good, particularly Lily James as Ellie. But the movie is nothing remarkable. It really isn't anything to write home about. Kate Mackinnon, I forgot to mention, Kate Mackinnon plays Deborah, the American agent who takes on Jack, and then tries to basically, make a fortune out of him. Of course, in the end of the movie, it doesn't work out, but she's a great character. I think Kate McKinnon's a good actress. I think it's a well-made movie. I just don't think that there is a lot of interesting things going on in it. I mean, the performances, like the kind of concert scenes, are nice. I feel like, again, this film was released at the wrong time. It should not have come out straight after Rocketman or Bohemian Rhapsody, because those movies are very popular still. And this is, I mean, when I watched this movie in the cinema, there were people laughing, and it was getting a good reaction, and it was surprisingly full up. It wasn't full, but it was fuller than I had initially expected. So that was nice. And I think it's a nice tribute to the Beatles, but I don't think it's like it honours their legacy. I would have rather had a film about the Beatles forming together. Then again, that would have been maybe a bad move after Rocketman as well. It's a very mixed bag. I mean, I did like the the fact that Ed Sheeran appears in this movie as himself. And in some ways, there's like a couple of nods to his ego and a couple of nods to his work, which is quite fun. When Rocky meets Ed Sheeran, that's kind of funny. James Corden has a cameo in the movie. He's good. I mean, he's not really an actor that I admire as such, but he's someone that I didn't mind seeing him in this movie because he was only in like 2 minutes of it. And obviously there is Gavin, who is the kind of the second boyfriend of Ellie, who she gets with after Jack leaves the UK. Although they meet Gavin earlier in the film when as I said, when he has a recording studio, he sees Jack perform in a pub, and he gives Ellie the business card. He's like, oh, you know, come to my studio and we'll make some music, you know, which is good. It's a feel-good movie. I mean, the movie has a happy feeling to it. It's a very joyous film to watch. It has its highs and lows, and it's a nice emotional film to get your teeth into. It's not like it's not like tearworthy or anything. It's not a tearjerker, but it's just, it has an uplifting feel to it. Like I said, it's a feel-good movie, but it's just not perfect as a film. So for that reason, I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believed in yesterday.
Yep, so that's my review of Yesterday. Please leave your comments down below, let me know what you think. Stay tuned, coming soon to a YouTube channel near you. The not X-Men, Men in Black ranking is going to be coming. It's just been a little bit delayed, so sorry. Doctor Who reviews will continue, Land Before Time reviews will continue, Pink Panther reviews will continue, and any movies that come out, like this movie, reviews will continue. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say about this movie, so thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See ya.